Welcome back to the Wolf Den presented by Win Again Academy. I'm Matt Wolff, founder and CEO of Ticket Time Machine. Today we welcome Michelle DiMuria to the show. Welcome to the Den. How's it going?
Thank you for having me. Going well, enjoying this wonderful hot heat in the great state of Arizona.
Yeah, some record days over 100 is like 18 or so.
We're at good now ready to hit number 20. Lucky number
Um,
20.
there you go. My yeah, my friend lives out there, and it's blistering heat. So everyone out anywhere, but specifically in Arizona, stay inside, stay cool. It's an important conversation we're going to have today, but I always like to have the guests introduce themselves since they're always best equipped to do so. So let everyone know who you are for those who don't know, and then we can get started.
Sounds good. So, born and raised in Arizona, diehard Arizona Cardinals fan. I know. We'll see how they do this season. Was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder in 2017 as a result of, at the time, being a victim of rape. I am now a survivor. In 2019, I attempted suicide, and as a result of both, I created the Be Daring Foundation, which is an incredible organization. And now we're working on our B University, which I'm excited to share with you guys later on. But, watching the Arizona Cardinals has definitely helped with my PTSD.
Yeah, it's and obviously with any conversation like this, we'll get into only the details that you want to talk about. Don't want to have anything that would make you feel uncomfortable or put you in a bad place. So, but I appreciate you being on the show. As people probably know, unless you're watching for the first time, mental health is a is something that I champion for. Um, I had my own bout of depression and mental health issues. It was I always it's always it seems silly to say it, but it was very mild in comparison to all the people that I've talked to in stories. I never thought of taking my own life. I always knew that everything was going to be okay, but in the moment, I used the word paralyze. It was paralyzing to me. Um, because I couldn't get out of bed. I didn't want to eat, which again, anyone who knows me knows that's not me. I didn't want to hang out with anyone, talk to anyone, including my, you know, my at the time girlfriend and family. So it comes in all shapes and sizes and degrees. With same here, we talk about 5 and 5 in the continuum. There's just the spectrum. What was mental health? That was a long-winded. What was mental health to you before um, you had the before you were a victim?
It was taking care of yourself. I didn't know a lot about mental health because my family was very quiet with those that had suffered from anxiety, depression, because with the stigmas around it, they're oftentimes afraid to share their story. So I didn't know a lot about it. It wasn't until 2016 when I was attending Arizona State University that I did my first mental health event. I actually did an entire week all by myself that I really started to understand what mental health was.
That was before the incident.
So I was raped in 2015, but my brain compartmentalized it because of this how traumatic it was at the time. My brain's like, nope, you can't deal with this right now. So it wasn't until 2017 that I actually remembered what happened to me, which is when I started to attend counseling sessions, which is when I was then diagnosed with PTSD.
There's a, and again, we'll delve into only what you feel comfortable talking about. I watched a remarkable um, documentary on Netflix. It was like Victim Suspect. Have you seen this?
I've heard of it, but I have not seen it.
So the the story is built around these women who accused someone of rape, and I think it was mostly around universities, but not always universities. And it turns out you have to watch it to even believe it or see it. But these women themselves end up getting arrested for filing a false report if they pull back, and it's just, I mean, with all the hardships and difficulty of reporting, I don't know how anyone would watch something like this and then, feel comfortable, reporting, which is something that needs to be done obviously a lot more for many reasons. Um, did you report the rape? I guess I don't know much about it, but did you report the rape?
So I had spoken to an officer, and due to the time span and not having enough evidence, I ended up not reporting because I the chances of him being convicted were slim. And
Yeah,
that's one of the hardest things with rape is a lot of people are kind of trying to process what happened to them. So some report right away. A lot of them are shamed. There's the big topic of, well, you had a drink, so clearly you wanted it, or things like that. Or you dressed a certain way. Women are shamed, unfortunately, by how we dress. There's been cases that I've read where a girl wore a skirt and a nice top, and so clearly she wanted, you know, what she got in a sense, and that's not the case at all, but because of these stigmas and stereotypes that surround rape, individuals, both men and women, are afraid to share because, as you said, there have been false reports made when it comes to rape, and rape is not fun. Sharing, just it's not. The question I was asked is, why didn't you fight back? Well, I'll share. My rapist had a knife, and he said, "You scream, you die." So hearing those words, your body kind of freezes, and kind of I was like an out of body experience for me where I felt like I wasn't even in my body at the time. I know that might sound a little weird, but it felt like I wasn't even present in a sense. I was just there and I was numb and I was like, okay, I just want to live. And so a lot of people, especially in my case, I didn't fight back because he had a weapon.
yeah. So I guess also the answer was you didn't report right away, and it's very easy to understand why. Part of what you said is odds on getting convicted not good. Now you got someone who has a violent uh, activity, and would imagine they wouldn't think too kindly of being accused of that. And so, for your safety, it certainly makes sense. Um, did you know the person?
Sadly, it was a family member
Okay.
who sexually assaulted me. And that's the hardest part because the division of people believing me, which is part of the reason why I spiraled so much and went down the rabbit hole, as we call it, because some believed me, some didn't. Some were like, oh, making excuses for this individual. And it just got to the point where I was tired of not having a support system. I had this traumatic event and it lasted 4 hours. I was raped twice, almost a third time in one day. And so, it's hard when people say, well, clearly you wanted it. That's always my favorite term that people say. Clearly you wanted it. Yeah, that's exactly. I joke a little bit, so please know this
No,
topic is very
everyone
passionate
has
to
to
me.
everyone
But
has to deal with it however they have to deal with it. So I understand.
it wasn't on my checklist of things to do for that
Yeah.
day is to be sexually assaulted. I joke because with PTSD it's very unique, and with me, humor and comedy really helps me keep balance. And so, when people ask me, "You deserved it. That's what you wanted." Yeah, I mean, it was on my grocery list for that week of things I needed to accomplish, and that's what's so frustrating with sexual assault is people think you wanted it. You egged your attacker on. No, they took it in their own way. Just like we interpret messaging on all different type of topics, they interpret it as us wanting it when in reality we never did.
I mean, anyone who rapes someone, especially in that fashion, is not mentally well. So they can think or do whatever they want, but it's very clear. And that's a hard line for me on anyone who does anything it doesn't have to be rape. It could be murder. It could be abuse. Whatever it is, you're not mentally well. There's an issue there. So who I guess it's easy for me to say, well, who cares what they think, or is obviously whatever they were thinking was not. But I want to ask you a weird question here, because you talked about laughing in comedy. I love comedy. I actually think there's very little that you can't make a joke about. And if I'm being honest, I've heard rape jokes and laughed at them just because I think in the time and the situation they're funny, um, but only in the way that they do it. Not that anything about rape is funny. What do you? if you hear a joke, and I'm not talking about people making joke, I'm talking about a comedian on stage making a joke and rape is the topic. They have all of that. What is that? Is there a way that is that ever going to be funny for you or no? And it's a
It's a
weird question, but comedy is can sometimes take like I'm Jewish. You can make a joke about the Holocaust, and I might laugh depending on what it is.
it depends on who's saying it and their intention. Like if they're using it to boost their show, so to speak, it's not going to be funny to me. But if they're doing it to bring awareness to the topic, so to speak, then yeah, I think it's funny. I think it's all based on the context. Like,
Okay.
I've had people who have made jokes about it and they're mean jokes. And I'm like, okay, that's not how you want to present this
No,
topic. And
not a
so,
mean joke. Yeah,
but that's how a lot of people I've come across, that's their way of thinking it's funny. I'm like, "No, that wasn't funny at all." Like, some people say, "Oh, did you have a broomstick use?" No, let's not even go down. I mean, that's how they think it's funny is they try to incorporate weapons that they've heard rapists use into their jokes, and that to me is a little too far.
I wouldn't even know what that was. That's yeah. I you know I understand. I understand both sides. I understand why people would find it offensive because they either have or they've been or they know someone who has, and then I think there are things in comedy that are just jokes. Anyway, it was just a weird question because I listen to comedy all the time, and there's a few ones that just I laugh at it. I don't and I think there's nothing funny in the real life in the real world about it, but it just was curious to me. I want to go back to the family member because when I say did you know him, you say yes, and then you talk about the incident was with a knife, and then maybe you don't want to report. Then I find out it's a family member, and now I think I have a friend, a very good friend who was raped by a family member, a few actually. It's crazy to even think that I know multiple people raped by their own family. I it's hard for me to understand why you couldn't go to the family and report. And I'm just saying this from my point of view. I have such a small family. I don't have any aunts or uncles, no cousins. And so, we're so close to have a family member not believe you it's insane to me. Like what would be the reason why a family member wouldn't believe you if you say something like that? That just says a lot more about the family, the rest of the family as well, and sometimes protecting people. But that's let's say you didn't get raped. It sounds like the family dynamic. That's tough. That's stuff that could really weigh on you mentally and your mental health, regardless if that's the type of family and support that you have, right?
Well, a part of it is I'm the age I am and not married, so that's one of the
Fantastic.
issues. But the thing is
Why
though
does
with my
anyone care about that? I mean, I think I think these are all excuses that are just, in the way that you shouldn't believe that, the same way no one should believe that, the same way dressing provocatively. Now, I think that this is interesting. I think that dressing provocatively can get a lot of attention, right? So when the people have the attention that's unwanted, and that sometimes can lead to if you have the wrong person. So there is something to be said about how you act, what you say, what you wear, as far as the attention that you get. But it should never ever lead to any of that. So those are two different things. There's no reason why someone deserved to be raped. I mean, that's a blanket statement, and there's no one I don't think who's ever going to come up with an excuse for that. So it just seems weird that when like I would laugh that stuff off if someone said stuff to me that made as much sense as hey you're single and unmarried or you were wearing this or whatever reason it was. I guess maybe it's easier said than done, right? Especially if it's something that you've encountered. And we had this conversation before when you had something bad. I said, well, why do you care what these people say? It's wrong, it's not true, and it's a ridiculous thing to say. um, is that something you have to work on or you can work on to eventually be like, look, this I don't care what you say, that means nothing to me?
The hardest part for me is summertime's always the hardest because I was raped August 28th, 2015. And so this is my first summer I've actually worked. So what I mean by work is I'm taking meetings and doing stuff instead of normally I do a lot of behind the scenes stuff. So I think that's why this summer things are a little bit bother me a little bit more because normally I know my limits. And I was also learning that heat impacts your mental health. I did not know that. I knew heat impacted it to a certain extent, but I did not know the extent of it. And so, one of our new local news stations did an entire story on it. So I'm actually taking a deep dive into that to see how I can better improve my mental health. But having people like yourself in my life is allowing me to learn how to brush that off. I'm not used to asking for help. I'm used to being the one that helps everybody else, and a part of the reason is just because that's just who I am. I rather help everybody else and then I'll deal with my own issues. But now that I've allowed myself to open up and say, "Hey, Matt, I need some assistance," it's allowing me to start getting stronger to where stuff like that isn't going to bother me anymore. But I'm being vulnerable and I'm opening up more wounds right now, which is part of the reason why certain things bother me that normally wouldn't, because I'm deep diving more into my rape and learning to how to cope with it better.
Yeah. Um, it's so when I opened up about my mental health again, not a big deal in the grand scheme of things, comparatively speaking. But for me, it's not easy to talk to and share. But I'll never ever feel like it's a tough thing for me to talk about. That obviously is a little bit different when you talk about being physically assaulted and raped. But I still would think, for me, I just feel like first of all, it's good to talk about it because, as you know, part of the big problem that you had is that you didn't talk about it and you just let it sit there. That's never good about anything. It doesn't mean if it's rape or depression or whatever it is, to being able to share your feelings, even with yourself, even if it's no one else, with yourself is to me, is a big thing. But, once you say it, it just, you have to start believing it too, and all the things that you're saying, like that's ridiculous. And I think that'll be helpful for you moving forward. It was for me, just and also you're gonna get some real dumb responses and stuff, but man, you're gonna get a lot of people that are just they're happy that you shared it because they know that, and it's important to know what people are going through. But you'll also get a lot, and I'm sure you get a lot. Hey, this happened to me too, and
Mhm.
you know what? It just whatever anyone's going through in life, 99.999% of it is not unique. Someone else's people are going through it, and generally a lot more people than you think have. So there's so much, you know, aside from how it helps you, that to help other people, and that's what you're doing with Be Daring, which is great. We're going to get into that and all of the the foundation and the events that you're going through and all the stuff you're doing in the realm of mental health, which I support always. You talked about asking for help. Was there anyone who was helpful right after this happened, and also helpful when you tried to take your life in the aftermath of that?
Yeah, I call 'em my B tribe. There's 4 people that are been on this journey with me since the beginning of time, it feels like, and they're always there. They always check in on me. Last Friday was the anniversary of my suicide attempt, and they all called and said, "How are you doing?" And it's just nice hearing people just check in. Having those 4 individuals always there, it's comforting because I when I have those moments of I'm alone, I pull up their text message and I'm like, nope, I'm not alone. I have these individuals. I have a lot of people in my life that support me and there, but these 4 have been through the highs and lows with me. And they always say, "Hey, you're worth it. You deserve to be here." And one of them is a huge sports fan, so we get to talk shop. I love talking about sports. That is my drive. You want to learn about me? Let's talk about football. Football is my go-to sport when it comes to embracing my mental health. And that is why I love doing what I do, because sports are unique in their own way. And as I shared with you, Matt, when I play fantasy football, I pick my picks based on their mental game, not their stats. And that's how I keep winning every year, is I base it on their mental game. And it's worked for me so far.
All right, well, it's coming up soon, and you need a good it's a good circle. I have a lot of friends, a huge network, but there's a circle of people that will always be there for you, and then people can come in and out.
Mhm.
It doesn't need to be a lot, and it's good to hear that you have that. Where would you say you are today, compared to where you need to be?
I'm a lot better. I don't go down that rabbit hole anymore to the extent where I think that my only escape is taking my life. I haven't thought about that since 2019. So that thought is completely erased from my mind, from my excuses, so to speak. But I have a long ways to go. But I know every day is a new day, and every day that I wake up is a day that I'm successful. Even if I just get 5 emails out, 1 project done, I've been successful in that day. Or I am one that checks in on all of the people I connect with. I just randomly send a message, just want to check in because that right there saved my life more than once prior to 2019 is just having that person check in, even if it's just, hey, how you doing? Great, I'm busy today. Great, just want to make sure you're okay. And I joke around with one of my friends. I told them, I said, if you don't text me within 3 days, I'm sending you in sync gifts for a day until you reply. He's like, okay, I'll make sure, because he struggles with mental health. So as a joke, that's my joke to him, saying if I don't hear from you 2 to 3 days, I'm sending you gifts, in sync gifts, because who doesn't love good old in sync back from the 1990s, 2000s.
Yeah. No, it's important to check in with people, and it's important that if you don't hear from someone, that maybe something is. I had an incident with someone that I'm, friends with, but more friendly with, and didn't hear back. And I went to the police. I was genuinely concerned. I thought he was okay, but who knows? You just never know. So it's good to check in on people, and it's good to have people check in on you. And I mean, there's always way more people that care about what's going on than everyone thinks. And I mean, if you're a good person,
Right.
obviously, and even the bad people, there's plenty of people who care about them too. I think was it Manson who was getting like love letters in jail. All these serial killers getting all these love letters in jail. It's wild, wild stuff. All right, so you you survived, and now what?
Now I'm working on changing the conversation about mental health. So we have the Be Daring Foundation, but right now I'm focusing on the membership arm of the foundation, which is Be University. It's an online platform for athletes, high school, college students, and community members. And a lot of our instructor staff, are all peer, just like you and I. We're not counselors, we're not therapists, we're just individuals that have been through trials and error and want to share our knowledge with others, whether it's through a course, an event, a master class, a workshop, whatever it might be. We want to provide an incredible platform for you to utilize to be able to share your knowledge, share your message with others. Because I'll share, during the hype of COVID, I did a Facebook Live talking about my suicide and rape. I had 5 people message me after saying, "You just saved my life by
Yeah,
being vulnerable and opening up and sharing XYZ with us." And I spent like an hour crying, just tears of joy, just knowing that as a civilian like myself, I had all these individuals say, "You just saved my life."
I mean, at the top, that's at the top of the reasons why sharing your story and everyone sharing any story about mental health, no matter what it is so important, and to at least keep the conversation moving forward and have it be a conversation because there's so much. Um, I mean, there's so many problems that people have,
Hmm.
and some are not. I don't want to say mental health is easily fixed, but there, I think it's way easier to get people heading in the right direction and get help than a lot of other things that people are dealing with, finances and drugs and um, cancer, all of that stuff. And there's so many issues that we want to work on, homelessness and the hungry and um, but they're all tied in, and they're all
Hmm.
and the mental health is tied into all the violence too, because
Hmm.
as I said earlier, I mean, anyone who does anything like that is not mentally well. But now, at same here, we talk about 5 and 5, that everyone has some sort of mental health issue that they're dealing with, which is different from the 1 in 5, which is the number that are focused on people who have a diagnosed mental illness. There's plenty of people out there without diagnosed, but just whatever it is you're dealing with, and to try and understand that it's not just you're not having a moment, you're going through something. Some people, you're upset, you're sad, you're depressed, you're going through a moment, is different than you have this issue that you need to deal with. Um, how did you just decide to start this foundation? Were you working at the time?
So I was at ASU. I was doing 3 degrees at once because my original dream job was a criminal profiler for the FBI. That was what I was originally going to do. Because all jokes aside, I was going to Phoenix College and I had a professor say, "You think outside the box when it comes to serial killers." And I was like, "What does that mean?" And he said, "You're not a straight shooter. You don't just look at them and say, 'Oh, this is why they did this.'" And he said that was a unique, you know, characteristic that a lot of people don't have in the FBI criminal profile world, I guess. I'm just taking his word for it. So I started going in that direction until I was diagnosed with the PTSD, and I do a lot of research, and I didn't see a platform like what we're creating out there yet. There's a lot of ones similar, but what we're creating is really unique. And so I was like, it's time for me to put one foot forward. And I got the idea of B University. I won season tickets to the Arizona Cardinals in 2021 off Twitter. I just had to retweet a tweet and I won season tickets with a parking pass, which was pretty
Ah,
cool. And so I was 19 rows from the field, which was pretty sweet. And when I walked in there, I felt like everybody else. No one judged me. Nobody cared that I had PTSD. Granted, I wasn't shouting off the top of my
no,
lungs but it was just this amazing experience. And so I wanted to give that to individuals through an online platform where they could come together, share their stories, not be judged, not be criticized, but feel normal. I know normal is a word that we don't like using in the mental health community, but in reality, we're all normal. I say I'm extra special normal because I have these, highs and low moments in my life, but I'm still normal. I still can walk, I can talk, I can do jumping jacks, I can eat, you know, what is normal? It's our own way of creating our normalcy is how we use it in our lives. And so B University is the mental health stadium of the world where we all can come together and express ourselves and ask for help. And our goal is to eventually help you get connected with counselors and therapists, but that's not our forefront. It's let's talk to individuals together and let's unite and support one another and be there for one another.
yeah, the community is such a big thing right now. Online community, and you're able to stretch across the world now in the Zoom with Zooms, and online and Slack, and you know any kind of website like what you guys are doing. And it's important for people. In some ways, people like to connect with strangers more than they like the people who know them, because there's, generally speaking, no judging and or prejudice, right? um, so it's become a huge thing in everything, networking, even just for jobs. um, People who just wanted to get together, to talk on a Friday because it was the pandemic and you're not going anywhere. So how, when you started to think about this foundation, the website and the membership was day one. That's how it came to be.
It was after, so foundation's been around since 2018, but it wasn't until I knew I wanted to create a membership arm because a lot of nonprofits have a membership platform to help bring in funds. And so when I went into that stadium, my aha moment came. I was like, I know exactly what I want to do. And so the reason we're starting with athletes first is last year I was reading an article, 5 NCAA players died by suicide. So I knew there was a need for athletes. And we're focusing on how to be the best version of yourself. We're not, focusing on how many touchdowns you can have, how many passes, how many free. How can you be the best version of yourself internally, which will then radiate out externally? Because one of the things I noticed with Kyler Murray is his mental game. You could see it in his face when he was having a good day versus when I just wanted to give him a big bear hug and say, "You're going to be okay." Because you could see the shift in his face, just his emotions. And that's what led me to creating this program for athletes is let's get athletes strong mentally. So when a coach is sitting there yelling at them, they can brush it off, like you said, and be like, "Oh, I got it. Having a bad day. I can improve, but these are the ways I need to improve mentally."
Yeah, it's well known that Russell Wilson has a mindset mental coach. I joined something to try. They were launching something. I can connect you or give you the information, but yeah, it's so sports in itself is such a mental game. And man, I remember the rush of those college students who passed. It was a couple like right in a row, and you start reading the stories about it, and it just doesn't make any sense. And I say that I don't say that in a bad way. I just say these there's no reason we can avoid people taking their own life. These are senseless deaths in the same way that someone coming into a school and shooting a bunch of kids those are senseless deaths, and there's something that we can do about it, and we need to do about it. And that's one of the big issues. I think if we threw more attention, and I don't know about money at it because I never know that money is the issue, but if we threw more attention to the people out there with who are not well and need help, um, I think it would be. I think it could be helped. I think there's people that could be helped a lot easier, but and they get to the point mentally where, and I'm not talking about athletes and you're talking about. I'm on the streets and I'm seeing people walking around talking to themselves. That to get to that point is, man, there had to be a lot of people who just didn't want to help, and just ignored whatever was going on. And that's a big problem, is not just ignoring stuff and maybe not offering any help. And so that's another thing that everyone can do is just really ask someone how they're doing, and have a conversation, maybe share something about you that you're not, that you're not doing well, or I had a bad day or experience that you had. So yeah, it's athletes certainly. I mean, everyone, there's all different types, accounting people. And what was that the number one profession, was accounting or lawyers? What, there was some profession that was a high amount of people who took their own lives.
I know doctors and nurses are up there now
Yeah,
because of the pandemic, but I think the biggest obstacle is people can't see mental health.
yeah,
When you think of a cold, you see someone coughing, you see somebody's nose red, you see, cancer, people losing their hair, losing weight. With mental health, you can't physically see. But what people often forget, for me, I used to use the rubber band method where I'd wear a rubber band around my wrist and I'd snap it. That was my way of calming myself down. So when I took that rubber band off, I was had welts. I don't do that anymore, but even others have scratched themselves with PTSD. I think if people remember it's not physical, it's internal, they might have a better understanding. But oftentimes drug addicts turn to drugs because they want to help those voices inside, so to speak.
yeah.
I've
And
read
that's why.
reports where right. So there's your physical not physical appearance of why people are having mental health issues because they're turning to drugs and alcohol more probably than they should. And I think if there's a way we can get people to understand that it's not physical appearance, more may then in turn ask how you're doing. But I think it's just because they can't physically see it, they don't know how to ask.
So you're doing some great things with the foundation growing, and this year you have a couple of events that illustrate that. So tell us a little bit about the mental health summit coming up in October and the 5K run in November.
So this is year 7 for the summit. I started the summit in 2017 at ASU. We had 700 people in attendance with 50 plus vendors. So really excited to do it virtually. The reason we're doing it virtual is because we have our Aussie team. There are 7 athletes from Australia different sports. We have a former Olympian, softball player, and so we want to give them this opportunity to share their story, which is why it's virtual. And this year is all about being the best version of yourself. How can we help you be the best version? We've got incredible speakers coming. Matt will be there. Coach Fox will be there. Scott Fox will be there. You know, hopefully Mark Moyer will be there if we can, remind him to hop on. But we got an incredible lineup of individuals coming. Really excited. The 5K, it's called Five to Thrive. It's about mental health. We've got a whole bunch of celebrities coming out, athletes from high school to college to professional to retired coming out. All the proceeds from the 5K will go back to our athlete program, scholarships to help athletes and individuals just get the help they need, whether it's through counseling, therapy, EMR, EMD, different types of treatments that are out there. We all utilize different things. For me, it's lavender essential oil, comic books, Cardinals and Marvel movies are my medicines, as I like to call it, to help me with my mental health. I love Marvel. One tip I'd like to share with those listening and will listen later, if you're unsure how to ask someone how they're doing, find a common topic. So when I go to events, Matt, I look at what people are wearing, and if they're wearing like a Marvel hat or a sports hat, that's kind of how I start the conversation. It's not to be creepy. It's what can I find that I have in common? Or if they're holding, a hot dog or something, oh, do you like these type of hot dogs? And gradually start that conversation. Eventually, you'll be surprised how many individuals will open up to you and say, hey, you know what? I am struggling with this. I am struggling with that. So find a common topic that you guys can talk about, and you'll be surprised how many people are going to open up to you.
Yeah, it's interesting when someone asks me how I'm doing. I tell them. Most people just use that word, and that's a big mental health conversation. Just it's casual, it's a pleasantry, and you're not really looking for an answer. But if you ask me how I'm doing, I'm going to tell you. And lately, it's been tired and overwhelmed or whatever. But and it's interesting to see the reaction when people ask that, because half the people don't really care how you're doing, but some people do, and there's not that there's much they can do for it anyway. Um, but it's just an interesting question. So when you ask someone how they're doing, I think you should try and mean it and ask it in a useful way instead of just a pleasantry. It's think about that as you when you're in conversation with people.
And my other tip for anybody listening, watching later, don't make promises you can't keep. What
Yeah,
I mean is if someone says to you, I need to talk. Okay, I promise we'll talk in 15, 20 minutes. If you're not sure you can talk in 15, 20 minutes, don't say that, because for me personally, when you say that, it's kind of like you're breaking the trust between us, and I'm not going to ask you for anything for a long, long time.
yeah,
Say, I'm right now I can't, but let's find a time later to talk and find that time. And even if you have to reschedule it, keep your word, Don't maybe say I promise, just say, you know what, we are going to talk later. I'll text you or call you when I'm available and we'll talk then. But find your right words. Don't make promises you can't keep, and take time for yourself. If someone shares something that's dark, after that conversation, process it and take time for yourself. Don't go jump back into work. Take some time to really process what they told you.
yeah. That's a big rule for me. Don't offer something that you can't, that you don't want to accept, and that you're not going to keep. That's I mean, to me, that's common courtesy. But I guess in the world we live today, that's kind of gone by the wayside a little bit. So we have the summit coming up in October. We're going to have lots of good conversation, and then in November you have a 5K uh, event. Tell us a little bit about that.
So it'll be in person and virtual. So even if you're not in the great state of Arizona, it'll be cool by then. It'll actually be in like the 70s, 80s by then. No more hundreds by then. You can participate in your own home or at a park. Put a team together. You guys can walk, run. We're gonna have some fun contests like which city can bring the most fans together, and whoever brings them in will get a trophy to brag. We'll send you a trophy. It might be Arizona, it might be East Coast, West Coast, who knows? But we're going to have some fun, interactive ways for you to talk to our local athletes that are coming in that'll be here. We've got some amazing surprises. Matt and I are working on some cool surprises as well. Just an all around great way for us to lose a little weight if we want before that great Turkey Day comes up that month, because we all know how diet goes out the window on Turkey Day. So why not have your last 5K before Turkey Day rolls or and Black Friday rolls around the corner? Although I will be watching football because I hear this is the first Black Friday football game for the NFL, which I'm really, really excited about.
Is it on Amazon?
I think so, but depending on who it is, it might be on your local TV too, but we'll see. Who knows? Maybe by then the Cardinals will be undefeated or and they might be on Black Friday. I don't know. There is that flex schedule that is a whole other conversation that we can have one of these days that some of the rules don't make any sense to me, but that's okay.
Yeah, I should know this actually. Am I? It's the Dolphins in New York on Black Friday.
Oh, hopefully it won't be snowing to the point where the stadium is
Well,
covered
maybe,
in snow.
or maybe it's no, it is that. That's what it is. Never mind. Yeah, it's on Prime. Amazon getting into the business. I don't. Nobody cares about Dolphins Jets except Dolphin and Jets fans. I say that living in near Miami and growing up in New Jersey. Yeah, it's a pretty good rivalry though.
Yeah.
Um, walking, 5K. Going to be some great vendors there to interact, people, food, drink, music, stuff like that.
We're gonna have a DJ. We have a local DJ. We've had at a lot of our events. Super awesome, amazing guy. He has a foundation as well around mental health. We're gonna have former NFL player Ed Smith coming out to hang out with us. Super nice guy. Known him since 2019. We've got a few others coming out from across the country. Won't share who yet because I always like to keep the surprises going. But we'll have vendors. We're gonna have high school athletes there, college athletes. We're gonna have contests, like I said. We're gonna have a photo booth. Um, all sorts of amazing things happening. That's gonna be our big fundraising event and just to let you guys know a little secret. If we can raise so much money, we're working on goal. I will dance salsa dancing that night if we meet or beat our goal. I have not danced salsa dancing in 2 years, so I'm hoping to get back into it. I used to compete in Vegas during my junior years of Phoenix College. So that's my little incentive to you is if you guys help us reach our fundraising goal, my partner and I will dance salsa dancing live at the event.
I like it. So I was just going to ask what the goal was, and not number wise, but the goals of the summit and the walk. What are you hoping to achieve with these two events?
So the
Sounds like the
summit
5K. There's a financial aspect to it, of course.
The summit, we're looking at 20,000 people. A couple years ago, we had 12,000 attend. And so with virtual, we're looking for 20,000. And the cool part is anybody that signs up for the summit automatically gets a membership to B University. So how's that a sweet deal for you? Two for the price of one. So you'll get a membership as well as a ticket to the summit. The 5K, my last 5K was in 2020. We had 400 people show up to my first 5K. So our goal is 1,000 people to show up in person. Virtually, we're looking about 5,000 virtually because virtually you can do anywhere. And
Yeah,
like I said, we already got our Aussie team ready to go. And our goal for B University is $75,000 for the walk. So that is our goal. But it may go up, it may, we'll see, but that's our goal, 75. And the cool part is I like to share it's a great time to write off for your taxes for the following year because November is like that time where you want to give your last
yeah.
donate. And like I said, all proceeds go back to B University. We don't take anything for administration. It all goes back into our programs, into our scholarships, so we can provide as much help that we can to high school, college students, athletes, and community members.
And what do you hope that the attendees and participants get out of these events?
Networking, new friends, new support groups, education, resources. If you sign up to, you'll get our membership box. So any U.S. resident gets a box delivered directly to their house with resources about mental health, workbooks, journals, you name it. We're going to have all these eventually in our boxes that which shipped out to members. But our biggest thing is to know that you're not alone. Know that whether you're in California, Florida, Nebraska, wherever, you have a network of individuals from all across the country ready to step in and just be there to help support you however we can.
I mean, there's not a whole lot more people need. It's always a good start to get that. Where you have the summit, we have a 5K walk membership at the university. What's the future look like?
Our goal, so we're going to create an interactive stadium, an actual stadium for the website. Our goal by 2025 is to have all 80,000 seats filled. The seats you can buy for in memory of someone who has died by suicide. You'll click on the seat, you'll get to see a photo and their story pop up. And the rest of the seats will go to sponsors, members, and it's going to be an interactive way for us to connect. So our goal is that, along with an app coming out next year, we're turning B University into an app. But our long-term goal is to reduce the number of suicides and to reduce the stigmas that surround mental health. So when someone says, I have or I live with anxiety, depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, PTSD, there's no more running away. I'm proud of you sharing your story. I have, and continuing the conversation.
Yeah, and you don't have to be a victim of any of this to want to help support it. My brother actually started the Sane Here endurance team, which is he does Ironman and stuff like that in support of mental health because he saw how important it was to me and what it sort of how it affected my life. But everyone knows someone who's going. It's like cancer. Everyone knows someone who's going with something. So it's just another thing that out there that needs a lot of support from a lot of people, financially, of course, but also um, there's a lot of other ways. Again, just asking people how they're doing and just keeping the conversation moving forward. And if you see someone speaking badly or behaving badly in a way against someone that could hurt their mental health with the bullying or just anything really, because you never know what might set someone off. That's the crazy. I'm a lot more aware of, I still, you know, I still sometimes I'm in a situation where I'm like, there's no real excuse for that behavior. I do want to pause and say, well, I don't know what they're going through. So it's not an excuse just sort of to do whatever you want anytime, but we really should be aware of that. We don't know what someone's going through. And so, whether that's you wanting to do something nice for them or piling onto them, just we want people to be aware. And it doesn't cost anything to do that. It doesn't cost anything to be a good person. That's for one. And the more good people out there doing good things for others, the better off everyone else is going to be in their mental health. And um, you know, that's sort of my vision for the mental health world. I don't really. I mean, I'll support it however I can in the same way that I like to support other issues that are out there. And I don't know. There's no for me the mental health world. I don't know. There's no one leading it, which is fine. It doesn't need a leader. It just needs a lot of people out there supporting it.
And I think the other thing you could do is reward someone. I know that may sound silly, rewarding mental health, but if they are coming out of the darkness, out of the rabbit hole, maybe just send them a card, thank you for still being here.
Yeah.
Even those little gestures like that, or buying them a coffee and say, hey, I'm happy or I'm proud to know you. I'm proud to be a part of your life. You would be surprised how those little gestures, those kindness can make all the difference in the world. Because, you know, with cancer, I love it when they ring the bell when someone beats cancer. Well, we can have our own version of ringing the bell, whether it's like I said, sending someone a nice self care package or whatever, just letting them know, hey, I'm really proud of what you've done and what you've accomplished.
Yeah, it was weird because there was a story the other day about someone who didn't ring the bell because they didn't want everyone else at the hospital to feel, you know, like, not that it was bragging, but we got to celebrate the wins. And I think other people should be happy for you, and they would want the best for you the same way you would want the best for them. So
Mhm.
it's interesting that that's an interesting conversation. But the, if none of this ever happened to you, do you think about what your life would be like and what you would be doing? It's unlikely this is it.
I think I would be in the mental health world in some way, probably just not as much as I am now. Because when I did that event in 2016, it opened my eyes that there was a lot of work that needed to be done. And prior to everything that happened, I was bullied in high school. And so that's kind of where I started to get more empathy. And I think I'd be in the mental health community, but I would not be this passionate about it. I would do what I could, but probably not this in depth. And I wouldn't have got to meet amazing people like yourself, Matt, and our good old friends that we are acquaintance with. I brag about you and others all the time. It's because you guys are all making a difference in my life and in this world. And we need more people like you out there because we can make all the noise we want. But like I said, you and Mark Moyer and Scott Fox are just three off the top of my head. And Dwayne, you guys are incredible individuals. And I say that sincerely because each of you have a powerful story and each of you are unique in your own ways. And that's what people forget. It's good to toot your horn, but at the same time, it's good that you use your powers for greater good and you work with individuals to help them see the best of themselves.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, for me, it's just about being a better person every day, and a lot of what I do, I would consider low hanging fruit and the easy lifting. But it's helpful, and if everyone did a little bit more of that, it would take some of the load off the people doing the heavy lifting, or their heavy lifting would be, more impactful. So I do appreciate that. Yeah, a lot of good people out there, doing a lot of good things, and I think they should be rewarded and applauded. And the people who are not doing should be, shouldn't be rewarded for bad behavior. But a lot of work to be done, and glad to have you uh, leading the way in with these events, which will be very helpful in many different ways. And I'm looking forward to being a part of whatever I can. And yeah, check out the bedaringfoundation.org or B underscore university on Instagram. Sign up for the mental health summit, which is coming your way online in October. And yeah, if anyone ever has anything that they want to talk about or ask or anything like that, I'm always available. Michelle is available. Ask someone, whoever it is, ask someone. The worst thing you can do is just keep it to yourself and not face it and just ignore it and push it under the rug, because it always gets worse. I did it. It took me a long time to. I mean, I knew I was depressed, but it took me a long time to actually tell anyone and kind of be like, all right, this is what is going on here, and it didn't help. It never helps. Procrastination never helps in any sense. But find someone. We're here. But find someone, and there's help. Is it? What's the new number? Um,
Oh, I believe it. Let me get it because I want to make sure I do it right. Because I always say 988.
yeah, 988.
988.
That's the new suicide prevention number.
That's the new suicide and
Suicide and
crisis
crisis.
lifeline. Yeah.
Yeah, um, yeah, 988. I should have had that scrolling. Hopefully, you never need it, but if you do, never be afraid to ask for help. And that's really in anything. I mean, I'm never afraid to ask for help because I'm always willing to help. So I think, but you shouldn't anyway. Some people can help you and you can't help them at all. It's that's just the way life goes, and you have different people in your life who are like that, and some are vice versa. So ask for help when you need it. Give help when you can. We're going to let you out of the wolf den with the same question everybody gets. You can spend a day, 24 hours with anyone in the world. They have to be alive and you can't be related to them. Who would you pick and what would you guys do?
I know I'm gonna get booed for this one, but Kyler Murray. I would love to
I think
hang out with
people
him
I don't think
and
people
play.
care that much about the Cardinals and Murray. I mean, he's not. To be honest, they're not great. So people don't usually hate teams that are not winning.
But the reason I say that is because they all see him as an underprivileged, rich boy because he's
Yeah.
young. But I see him as a man growing. We would hang out, and talk shop, and of course do something other than play video games. Maybe go bowling and just really just hang out. I'd love to pick his brain and learn more about who he is as an individual. Yeah, Kyler Murray from the Arizona. I see great things for him. I
I'm,
really, really do.
I think he's good. Football is such a. It just depends sometimes on who's around you, and there's some pretty good teams right now. So they'd have to get really good real fast, but it's possible. He's done it. He's got the skill. I would think. I mean, have you reached out to him and his people?
Yeah, nothing yet,
Yeah,
but
you would
his
think in the
yeah.
community, it's. I don't. It's.
I'll have to have his people or my people call his people.
Yeah,
Remember
that's
that saying?
a whole nother conversation for me because I just think there's a lot of people who could do good, and it's like you're in the neighborhood, you're doing this. I would think it'd be a you know something that they would want to support, but it's still you get make noise for this summit and the race, and make it so people can't ignore you. Right, get loud enough so people can't ignore you, and I
Well, I'm
think
going to training camp. Maybe I'll get a sandwich board and wear it.
ask them. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
but I think that's a very attainable person compared to some of the people that we've had. This is the 298th episode, and we've had some interesting people named. He's on the list now. Really appreciate you sharing your story. People will watch this, and it will help them share their story, or help keep the conversation moving forward. Again, check out the website bedaringfoundation.org, Instagram b_university. There's a summit in October, a 5K early November, and look forward to seeing what you bring with these events, and to growing the foundation. And we're here to support on the way. Thanks.
Well,
So
we're
we got
excited. Thank you.
300th episode next week. I don't know what it's going to be yet. We're still working on it, but episode number 300 next week. Have a great weekend. Do something fun. Do something good. And yeah, same here.